Let's get into this drama with the Seattle Sounders because I feel like a lot popped off since our last episode, and the makings of this kind of were started when we were talking on the last episode, but we kind of downplayed it. And to be honest, I did not fully grasp the extent. Well, it hadn't come out yet of exactly what took place, but it turns out that everything that took place in that FC Dallas game. You know what it seems like to me? No, I'll just give my initial take right off the bat and then we'll recap what actually happened. But it seems like a lot of frustrations from a frustrating season, kind of came to a head and boiled over.
Yeah.
And it resulted in a couple of suspensions, and Schmetz was getting grilled at training about it, which that was pretty entertaining. So let's recap what exactly happened first. I'm going to go through the entire series of events. I've written it all out, and then we're going to go more in depth with our takes on what it all means and the effect that it could have on the team moving forward and the season moving forward. All right, so it all started in the 78th minute of the FC Dallas game after Raul Ruidiaz scored the goal to make it 2-1. And he gave a celebration where he pointed at the name on the back of his jersey, which we talked about on the last show, as if to say, don't forget about me. You know who I am?
He ran past Brian as well.
And as he was running past the Sounders bench, which I didn't really take into account that aspect of it, but he absolutely was pointing at it as he jogged by the bench. And realistically, Schmetz even said at the post-game press conference that he kind of figured and knows that was directed at him because Raul Ruidiaz has not been starting these games. The last 3 games, he's come off the bench as a super sub. He comes in as a super sub in the Dallas game, and he scores that goal, which turned out to be a very important goal. And he gave Schmetz a little don't forget about me point to the name on the back of his jersey. Then Jordan Morris and Raul got into it a little bit on the field. And I think, as I understand it, that situation was about Jordan not forcing the goalkeeper to play the ball in faster. And Raul was kind of getting on his ass. Like, come on, you need to hustle. You need to get on him. Let's go. There's not that much time left in this game. And Jordan ends up scoring the equalizer just a few minutes later. But I thought that was interesting just because, Jordan is not typically a guy that you're going to see getting a little mix it up with a teammate like that. He really is not a mix it up type of guy, period. But, when we were talking about it on the last show, I think we kind of chalked that up to just, two competitive teammates having a frank exchange of ideas. But it's something that happens on a professional sports team. So that incident in isolation, I don't think there's all that much to it, but I think when you combine it with everything else that we're about to talk about, it does kind of take on potentially new meaning, right? So we all know what happened next in the game. Jordan scored the equalizer, like I mentioned, and then he ended up scoring the game winner in second half stoppage time for Seattle to take a 3-2 comeback victory. And that's the other thing that I was going to say is, I think it's pretty funny that this happened in a game that they won.
Yeah.
Like after a terrible L, especially at home, I would expect something like this more, but it's like, guys, come on, you won the game. It was the biggest win of the season. We recorded a whole dub pod about it. Like, you're mad about a dub. But I think, when you actually look at what happened, it makes a little more sense, like irrespective of the result. But I do think that is like a funny element to all this is it came after a game that they came after not just a dub, but the best dub of the year. So after the final whistle of the 3-2 victory, Raul and Nuhu immediately, they beelined to the locker room. They did not stay on the field for the traditional classic celebration that the players do with the fans, and they do the chant, right? And I think if there's a way to get under Brian Schmetzer's skin, that's one of the biggest ways I could think of. Schmetz talks about all the time how the most important facet of the club is the connection between the players and the fans. And I think those celebrations kind of after victories at home, like those are important to him. And I think I don't know. Without knowing for sure the specifics of the situation, I would venture to guess that that's the thing that really got Schmetz going, was them just bolting off the field after the win and not staying for the fan celebration. Raul and Nuhu were then not seen at Seattle's next training session at Long Acres, and subsequently after that, Sounder at Heart, great website. Sounder at Heart original reporting from sources that the suspension from training, and then it turned out to be for this game on Saturday, stems from a post-game argument that both players got into with Schmetzer in the locker room after the match. I don't think it said exactly what that argument was pertaining to, but like I said, reading between the lines, I'm pretty sure he was probably telling them, guys, that's not acceptable. You have to stay on the field to celebrate with the fans after the match. That's something that like we expect all our players to do, and they probably did not see it that way. That's just that part is speculation, but there is solid reporting from Sounder at Heart that the suspension was related to an argument between both of those players and Schmetz. So that's why they weren't at the next training session. That's why they're not playing on Saturday. The sources, according to Sounder at Heart, indicated that Rui Diaz was upset already with, quote, a perceived lack of communication over not starting the last 3 games. So not necessarily that he wasn't going to be starting, but a supposed communication breakdown in, I guess, telling him that he wasn't going to be starting. That's what the report said. Schmetzer then called an unusual Wednesday media scrum, and he stated that Nuhu and Raul are out for a, quote, coach's decision, and said that it didn't stem from any conversation or argument between myself or the 2 players, and that it's a done issue. So he's basically denying the aspect of it that it stems from an argument, and maybe his contention is that it was more related to how they didn't stay on the field after the game. But either way, it's some good drama. It's some tasty gossip. Raul and Nuhu will be in the building for training by themselves this week, but won't participate in group training and will not feature in the match versus Chicago. Christian Roldan also said that players supported Schmetzer's decision to suspend Rui Diaz and Nuhu. Stefan Fry also came out, and he said that Raul's a passionate dude. He's a competitive guy, and so I think players understand when emotions come to the surface like that to an extent. So I don't know if there's any strife or discord among the locker room. They're saying that there isn't, but needless to say, the Seattle Sounders will be without Raul Ruidiaz and Nuhu for this match against the Chicago Fire. And this whole thing just really, it really escalated. So now let's talk about our takeaways. What do we make of all this? I'll start by, first of all, again, funny that this happened after a dub. And also, it's tough, I feel like Rui Diaz being upset over a perceived lack of communication. There are ways to handle that don't come to this, where you kind of leave the field in a huff without celebrating with the fans after a big win in which you scored a goal. And then further getting into it with the coach in the locker room. That's just typically not going to end well. And I think in that situation, you ideally want to handle that not in the eye of like everyone at the stadium, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I think of it. As for how Nuhu got involved in all this, I don't know what he was mad about. I don't know if he was just saw that Raul was mad and was like, I'm going to be mad too. Or if there was, did you notice anything in the game where Nuhu might have gotten upset with a teammate or with
I think he was just
coaches?
mad he came off early.
So about getting subbed out. So, it seemed like he sort of just latched on to Raul's anger. I don't know, if Raul hadn't stormed off, maybe he doesn't storm off. I didn't see the footage of the storm off. Like, I did not really see that aspect of it, or hear about that aspect of it till after the fact. I did see the Raul and Jordan exchanging words, but I don't know. What do you think, Noah? I feel like from Rui Diaz's perspective, you can handle that way if you want, but like just most times that's not going to end well, is it?
No, I think it's quite silly and childish from a player who is not only just a veteran, but like a locker room staple and someone who's supposed to be leading the team, and also someone who's like trying to prove their value to the team. That seems like a really dumb thing to do when, you know, you're trying to fight your way back into the starting lineup, whether you believe that you should be starting or not. That's kind of like you just made the decision for yourself to not play, and that just feels really stupid.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, before all this happened, my observation was that Raul was actually handling his loss of his starting role quite professionally. You know, the team put out the video after the Houston game of the players on the field after the match. Did you see this video? And Raul is like gassing up Paul Rothrock. He said, "This is the guy. This guy brings the best energy. Like, I love this guy." And he did not. And he came off the bench in that game, and he didn't really seem pressed about it at all. And I think, if anything, he's had a reputation as a great teammate, not just a good teammate, but a well-liked guy in the locker room who is very supportive of his teammates, and specifically has been a great mentor to the young players, which not every star player of his stature and pedigree will work with the young guys like that. Clint Dempsey was not a guy who did that as much. Raul is a guy who's done that. So to see it kind of go from gassing up Paul Rothrock on the field, and I'm going to be a good teammate, to storming off the field and getting into it with the coach and then getting suspended. It just seems like a really quick and fast escalation, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I can see it both ways, though, in the same sense. He can be connected with the team and respect his teammates and, you know, be in good terms with the team, but also be frustrated with the coaching staff, with the front office. And if I can be a little conspiratorial here, Ari,
do it.
I think that because like that was not even that long ago that
it was the game before.
It was the game before, the midweek game before. Maybe he got some news about his contract or what they might possibly be doing with him in this next window that really frustrated him, because the source says lack of communication, but it doesn't necessarily note the lack of communication was about starting or not.
I see. I mean, you know, that there could be.
That's my galaxy brain take.
That is a galaxy brain take, and that there could be something to that. You know, there has been a lot of speculation regarding his future with the club, given his age and just the lack of production, not really just from him, but from this whole offense. I think there's been a kind of a sentiment that guys are playing for jobs right now, and he's at the forefront of a player who's being talked about in that manner. So he also, I forgot to mention this part, but he posted a photo on his Instagram story today, correct?
Yeah.
With the caption in Spanish, "My mother didn't raise a coward," with a devil emoji.
Yeah, fire.
Not exactly.
With a Porsche in the background, too.
Yeah, with a Porsche in the background. Not exactly sure what he means by that, but it definitely is quite obviously a commentary on the drama that's been unfolding. So anyway, we'll see how it pans out. Christian Roldan and Stefan Fry were both pretty emphatic that this team is close-knit, that there's no discord or strife or drama among the players or in the locker room. Of course, they're going to say that. Schmetzer also tried to downplay everything today. I
thought the Schmetzer stuff was way more odd than the Christian stuff, because that makes sense to me, at least. You can have a united locker room and players and also be mad at the coach. Like that there's always a hierarchy between that.
People disagree on stuff.
Yeah. But it was odd to me that, you know, Christian Roldan was like, this is literally the closest that this group has ever been in the whole time that I've been on this team. And then at the same time, it's like, okay, but Raul is pissed at the coach. Yeah. So I don't know. That's I don't know, my galaxy brain take, Ari. I'm just saying, you know, what happened?
Schmetz did seem to be kind of saying like two things at once. Like he said it was not disciplinary, which I mean, I don't understand how it could be anything but that. But at the same time, he was talking about how it was a coach's decision, but there was no argument, but there was a reported argument. But the coach's decision would obviously be related to their conduct after the match. There's nothing else that could be about. So whether there was an argument or not, like clearly this was like a disciplinary suspension for both of them. And it's Nuhu's second suspension of the year. His Uber famously got stuck in Washington, D.C. traffic when he was supposed to be at a film session. So he got suspended for that game. Now he's gotten suspended for this game. Schmetz claims that everything with him and Nuhu is good. And he called Nuhu a great kid who, they've seen grow up and is becoming an adult. And these are just like, learning moments for him. He's also been on the team for like 7 years.
Yeah,
now,
I was going to say, I don't really think he's a kid anymore, but
I mean, Schmetz calls all of them kids.
That's true.
Anyway, we're going to be keeping close tabs on all this to see what developments and what resolution all of this has come to. I gotta say, it's probably the best locker room drama I've seen since this team has been. They've been good about being drama free in that way. Like they always have good team chemistry and level-headedness. I think even there's been times where things are not going well in a similar way to how they've gone off the rails at times this season, and nothing has ever careened off the tracks in a drama sense. And I don't think we're at full meltdown or implosion stage with this yet, but it is the type of, when there are meltdowns and implosions, this is the type of stuff that tends to happen first. And you either nip it in the bud and move past it, and in some cases you can get stronger from it, or I've seen examples of MLS teams or just like professional sports teams in general where the locker room does implode, and the coach loses the players, and that can get crazy. I doubt it's going to fully escalate to that in this situation. This seems like something that everyone should be able to move past. But I mean, I will say, all the talk about Raul specifically, his future with the club, I mean, that's only going to increase with this, because people had already been talking about his future with the club just based on how he was playing and how the team was playing, and really just the attacking output that we've seen all season. That was already a topic. You throw in some drama like this, I mean, it could just be the beginning, though.
Yeah. And, Schmetzer's always been known as a player's coach, and I still think that he is. There were some people lobbing some terrible scorchers on Twitter about how Brian is, he's lost his touch and all of this. And he clearly hasn't. He sat there and he has no reason to defend Nuhu or Raul if what, is being reported actually happened, which I do believe it did. He could just say, no, this is a disciplinary suspension because they broke team rules and they were disrespectful and disrespected our fans. But instead of doing that, he sat there and defended them, basically just lying or, just massaging the truth.
Representing the situation in a different way than I think the public at large understands it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect way to put it. And so I think this is no, Siggy Schmidt era, Clint Dempsey not showing up to practice and throwing a tantrum. This is a scuffle, But then again, we could be wrong because people pointed this out to us last episode and we were like, nah, bro, we're chilling. It's fine.
Well, we were specifically, if I remember correctly, talking about the Raul and Jordan interaction.
True.
Which, like I said, that on its own, I don't read too much into that. But I think looking back on it now, what that indicates is that Raul was pissed, and he is pissed, and he's been pissed. He's not happy about, he's probably not happy about coming off the bench, but it sounds to me, reading between the lines, that he's not happy about how that was handled.
Yeah.
And we're not going to know exactly the specifics of what has him feeling this type of way, but it's something. as for Schmetz, there's being a player's coach, and you know, I do think man management is what Schmetz has proven to be best at. I think he's sharper tactically and with personnel than maybe he gets credit for, but I think what's made him an elite coach in this league, and a big reason why he's won the amount of trophies that he has since he took over as coach of this team, is because his man management skills are so sharp. And he's very good at getting players to understand that he cares about them as people off the field, and he's very good at putting them in situations where they can become the best player that they can. And to me, that's the most important part of being a coach. It's managing egos, managing personalities, managing the locker room, and putting your players in the best positions to succeed more than it is necessarily X's and O's. And Schmetz, I think Schmetz is an elite coach at that aspect of it. But you also, there's a fine line between being that type of coach and, you know, getting walked over when a situation like this comes up. So I don't necessarily think Schmetz is in the wrong for taking this disciplinary course of action, but it's definitely just going to be interesting to see like what type of subplot this could evolve into as we move forward in the season here.
We are basically Bravo TV, Ari. We are locked and loaded for this.
Earlier this season, they were the improvisational comedy troupe. Now they're the reality TV show. And frankly, you know, it's entertaining for us, and it's good content for us at Lobbing Scorchers. So
yeah.
I'm okay with it from that standpoint. And, you know, maybe a little drama after a big dub is what the team needs to really like light a fire under it. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm reaching, but
lock in.
That's definitely the whole situation escalated to a much greater extent than I would have thought. Unless you have anything else, Noah, I think we can move on to the other news from the show. I mean, rest assured, we're going to be keeping track of the drama and what happens moving forward